Hi, Natsu here. It's been a freaking while since the last video. Hope this works. So, because literally every other thing I've started basically just fell apart in my mind by this point, and that I lost so many fucking things at one point, I'll start a new thing. So, welcome to What If Deku Was a God. When I say God, though, don't think of it as like, omnipotent and such. Nah. I'm going to use a specific type of God. The gods from I Am a Spider, So What? In that manga's world, or multiverse, or whatever the hell you want to call it, basically, gods are beings that have massive amount of energy and are able to utilize it. Their souls are basically immortal. They do not age, they can only increase in power unless power is stolen from them. And to create phenomenon and such, as well as to do many other things, they use runes. Those runes are created by manipulating the energy inside of them, which they first have to learn to do, as well as learn to see that energy, as well as soul's energy, effects, as well as a few other things, but whatever. So this Deku will be born from the same parents as in canon. The only difference is that he will be born a god. His soul in itself will be different. It will be powerful, and he will have a lot of energy inside of him. Not all gods are created equal, though. They can grow in power, though. Example, if you watch the anime, after Kumoko, or our spider, depending on how you want to call it, because Kumoko isn't really a canon name, to be exact. Whatever. Sorry, tangent. After she killed the fire dragon, the being in black that meets her, which is an administrator, is a god. He is a true dragon. So one of the original dragon species, and basically one of the most powerful beings, a natural god. The difference between a true dragon and the dragons that are on that world is that the dragons from that world are created thanks to the system, as well as born from a different manner. Gods are normally born gods, but some can be created. Example, spoiler alert, skip like 15 seconds to the future. Kumoko becomes a god after an incident. And in that incident, basically she takes in so much energy that her body changes. Anyway, Deku will have to learn how to use runes and see energy all on his own, as no other gods are there to teach him when he's young, basically meaning he has to learn everything from scratch. He will also think that that is his quirk, because of how he is born and when it happens. He will be born at the exact same time as well, so the only change compared to his canon counterpart is that instead of being a normal human, he is a god. Quite easy to understand, right? So, let's start at around the time where in kids' quirks appear. Which, basically, since Deku isn't able to do anything yet, they don't think he has a quirk. They go to the quirk doctor, and one thing some of them see is that he has a massive amount of energy in his body. It's not too much exactly, but like the person who saw that is someone whose quirk allowed them to feel the energy that is around them. Basically, the best she could give as an example is that Deku has about the same amount of energy inside of him at the current moment as a hero that passed not too long ago who can store electricity in his body and then release it. Which he had about a car's battery worth. So right now, Deku doesn't have too much energy, right? They just don't know if he can release that energy or do anything else with it. But he does have a quirk, or what they think is a quirk. So, Deku, being Deku, basically decides that he's going to try and push out said energy, which he doesn't think actually works. Over time, he gets sadder and sadder, thinking that his quirk is a dud, until he sees a cartoon or anime or reads a manga, whichever you prefer, which shows people looking or using energy on their eyes, or trying to concentrate it on their eyes to actually see it as well. Which is the first time he tries to use conjuring, well, to do something other than just push out energy. And yes, I say conjuring because that is how they use it. Basically, the runes and every other thing is called conjuring. The reason why Deku finally is able to do it, even though it takes him a few days to finally actually do correctly, sorry about that, is because the only thing he needs to do, really, is basically make a shell in front of his eyes to kind of perceive the energy. Which, for the first time, when he actually gets to be able to do it, first, he doesn't remark his own energy, he just sees the energy of things around him, which is quite small. Well, energy of living beings, I mean. So, kids have a small amount of energy, adults have about the same. Heroes or people who trained a lot have a bit more. But all of he sees right now is not the actual energy that he is using. He just sees their life force, basically. The amount of life they have left, kind of. If he were to look at himself, he wouldn't see anything, but that's only because, compared to the others, his life force doesn't really leak out. What he does see, though, when he looks at his hand, is a different type of energy. The only reason he realizes is because the energy around the other people is a yellowish kind of energy, white with barely a tinge of yellow, while the energy around him, when he looks at his hands, is more of a silver-like color. After finally being able to do that, he keeps training it for a while, hoping to do more. Basically trying to concentrate on his eyes as well as try to push out energy, which he does remark is possible after a bit. Basically training to push out energy before training to put energy around his eyes help him achieve both, basically. So, while he does that, he then starts to basically see people's quirk and think, could I do that? Example, he sees Bakugo's quirk, making tiny explosions. He tries to just kind of imitate it, just like he did for seeing energy by pushing out energy out of his hand, which does literally nothing other than dissipate it. Yeah, it doesn't do like in Dragon Ball, push out a ball of energy, no. That would need conjuring to be able to do it. Once energy isn't controlled by him anymore, it literally just disperses. So, yeah. While Deku is trying that, basically, over time, again and again, he's thinking, maybe I'll look at other animes, maybe I'll look at other things like that, to basically try to have more ideas of what to do. Until he realized that, oh yeah, every time someone uses magic in an anime or such, there's always a type of sigil, rune, whatever, circle, that kind of gives shape to what they want. Which Deku tries to imitate the ones that he sees, which do literally nothing because they're not actual conjuring. So he has to try and make it himself, thinking of different ways. Which, basically, over time, he kind of gets the trick of it. Over the years, until he's about 10, he learned how to do basic thing to copy quirk. Basically, super strength is a rune that he can put around his body that actually gives him more physical power. The problem is that it increases his muscle strength, but not his defensive capacity, meaning that he did break an arm trying that. He tried to change the rune a bit, which he found easier to do in a notebook for himself at first, and keeps doing it like that, and then tries the new one afterward. Sorry about that. Basically, he changed it to make one that increases his defensive capacity, strengthening his skin, muscles, bones so that they don't break. The problem is that using both at once is extremely hard. He did seem to find that doing it with his eyes became easier and easier as time went on, until after a year or so, he basically didn't even have to think about it, it was always on. Which he did find interesting, which is why he always tries to train his other abilities, basically. Creating a rune, training with it until he perfects it, and then tries to make it so that, just like his eyes, it becomes second nature. He only got to be able to do it with 2 until he was 10, his eyes and his defensive abilities, which he basically kept pushing constantly, always being on. To the point where he doesn't remark that because he unconsciously stopped thinking about it, but his own energy levels, as he used it, that they decreased and then came back, basically augmented. Normally, it takes a lot of time to increase it a lot, but the reason Deku is able to do it that much, even though it shouldn't be able to do it that fast for a higher god, is because his amount of energy is low. Earlier, I said that the lady who felt his energy compared it to a hero who had about a car battery's worth of energy. One thing I didn't say, though, is that she didn't perceive it correctly. She just perceived that there is energy. But the difference is that the energy Deku has and the power it has is greater than for the other. She only felt the amount that is similar to that, but of the other hero. But since Deku's energy is literally godly energy, well, pure energy instead of lightning being stored, it has a lot more power behind it. So even though he has a lot of energy for human standards, since he's a god, compared to other gods, he doesn't really have a lot. So his increase is pretty big. Mostly since he's starting from all the way down, it will increase near constantly at a high pace for him. Though at one point it will slow down, but that's like way later when nobody else from his family is even alive anymore. So that should just tell you how long he'll live. Basically forever. But basically, thanks to that, and him perfecting 2 runes, sorry about that, he does keep increasing in energy. Imitating Bakugo became a lot easier as he created more runes to try and copy it, because over time, he learned exactly how Bakugo's process is to make those explosions. Like, Deku did find a way to just create fire, but he wanted to replicate Bakugo's at first. And basically kept going for a while. So, explosions are possible for him, but the rune does take a while. Copying quirk is basically his main form of using his energy. Finding different runes that equal to a quirk, or that is similar to a quirk, so he can use it. He does try to create things on his own, but since he needs an image in mind as well to make them correctly, the runes mostly fall apart very easily when he doesn't do it correctly. So he does try to imitate the quirk of others. The quirk of a certain hero did try to be copied many times, but Deku can never seem to copy it correctly. Of course, I am talking about All Might. All Might seems to have super strength, super speed, and the ability to create air pressure when punching. Deku was able to copy super strength and super speed by using his energy and making runes, but first he has to consciously use an exact amount of energy while doing it. And just like for before, when he had trouble using his eyes and muscle strengthening, using both at once is pretty hard. He does get better at it though. For now, the amount of quirks he copied are one that allows him to partially float in the air, by basically making a type of platform under him. That one, he copied it from trying to fly like one of the winged kid, but he wasn't able to create wings on his back using runes. So he tried to change it a bit. He tried to control the wind at first, which every time he tried, he basically just created an impulse instead, which pushed everything around. They weren't very big because he wasn't trying to make them extremely sensitive or extremely powerful, but creating platforms in the air was the best he was able to actually do after a while by compressing air in a specific way so that he could step on it. Though when he releases them, if he doesn't release them slowly, they do make another explosion. Well, an impulse from the air. So he doesn't use it often. Another one that he was able to copy is from one of the people in his class. You know, the one who can extend his eyes. He was basically able to do something quote-unquote similar. Basically, he tried to understand how the ligament behind the person's eye was able to stretch and tried to put it around other parts of his body, modifying the muscle temporarily to basically make him more flexible. He can dislocate his arm and put it back afterward, basically stretching his arm a tiny bit before bringing it back, but it hurts a lot. He is trying to make a rune to basically either stop pain or help him heal, but right now he's having a lot of trouble with that. He needs to understand it perfectly or at least at a minimum, and cell replication is still kind of hard at 10. He does get that they divide to basically fix problems, but he's not able to visualize it correctly yet. He will, though, after he meets Recovery Girl. I'm gonna have to stop in a bit because my throat is killing me, most likely because I haven't done a video in like ages. So I'm gonna try to keep going until 30 minutes. But after that, I'm gonna have to stop, sorry. Anyway, as I was saying, basically, this is Deku's training. Looking at quirks, trying to understand them in his notebooks, and then trying to sketch out runes. Oh yeah, I should explain how the rune works. Sorry, tangent, but runes aren't example lines or a shape specifically that give a meaning. Example, if you use fairy tale, Natsu's Dragon Slayer magic has a lot of dragon faces or such on them to use it. Runes aren't like that. Best example I could give is basically a circle with the energy placed as in blocks around it. Give me a sec. Sorry, I needed a 5-minute break. My throat was killing me. I think I stopped at trying to explain magic. So, in the manga, and I think in the anime, they show that the runes in the system are kind of like a circle which has bricks kind of in it that need to be placed in a specific way to actually create an effect. Those runes are created by using the assistance of the system. A god still needs to use runes, but the runes can be a bit more complicated. Like I said, it's not like, a specific drawing of this type. It's really like trying to affect the world by creating a different aspect. The system simplifies them to make it like a circle with different other circles in it, which you need to place specific dance in. But for gods, we never got really shown how they do it. I think in the manga or anime, no. I think the light novel did have some images where you see different things, but I don't think they were runes, to be exact. So, Deku drawing his runes, for everyone else, they literally just don't understand what they are. They just think they're weird drawings. Someone who could see energy, though, that's different. If they looked at the notebook and then at what Deku is doing, they would see that it's the exact same thing. Of course, trying to create an event, basically. So, another way to explain how they work is that not just gods can use them. As long as someone is able to control the energy inside of them, they would be able to create runes, though compared to a god who can store near infinite energy inside of their souls, which is quite incredible, actually. Basically, their souls are hundreds of times, if not more, larger than a normal being, and so able to store so much energy. They push out that energy to create the runes, but can also put energy inside of it. Example, sealing the life force of a planet, or controlling the soul of other beings to add to their own. Though taking the life force of a planet basically makes them more powerful, but does kill the planet. This is actually why Kumoko was able to evolve into a god. Oh shoot, that was a spoiler. Sorry for that. But yeah, basically Deku is just creating his own runes by sheer luck and basically forcing his way through. Normal gods are either created with the knowledge of how to use them, or are creatures like the true dragons, which, when reaching adulthood, have chances of becoming gods. Very high chances, but not 100%. Basically meaning that Deku being born an actual god but not having the knowledge is kind of weird. Basically the same as how Kumoko did it. She became a god because of the system, not out of her own, power. She didn't get born with that energy, or she wasn't born a race that should be able to gain that energy. Deku was just born with it, but without actual knowledge of how to do it. So he's learning from scratch, basically. As he grows older, though, his training becomes more geared toward trying to also train his body naturally, not just using runes. As he thinks to himself that if at one point he's not able to make one, he still needs to be able to work his own way. So training physically is also something he starts doing a lot, which does take a while, and he does try to create something he's seen or heard about being a dream of kids, like cloning himself. For now, he's only trying to do it mentally, like creating a second will, basically, a second mind. Which he fails at completely because that is fucking hard to create for him. Like, he doesn't even know how to start. Separate his mind. The closest he's been able to do felt like he was trying to split his own thought in two, but also as if he was trying to split his brain in two, which was hurting like hell. So he stopped that very fast. He instead tried to create a second body, basically a clone technique like in a ninja film or some shit like that. Which, even though he does get to be able to create something similar, the first thing he was able to do was a body when he was around 11 that, even though it was physically looking like him, it still had differences. He wasn't perfect in it, and barely touching it basically destroyed it instantly. It is literally just a large amount of energy condensed into a body, but not really well done. So anything that touches it basically just destroyed it. I'm gonna stop here for now because my throat just feels like it's about to fall off. But either the day after tomorrow or the next weekend, I'm going to try and do another video. I was supposed to do or try to do a video last week and like yesterday or the day before that, but my sister and her dogs were here, so I wasn't able to do it. So yeah, this was What If Deku Was a God, Part 1. Hope you liked it. Natsu, out.